Would you stay if your husband cheated on you?
My husband is such a man of God that if that were to happen, I would know that I did something wrong to cause that to happen, because he is so close to God that there would be no room for that to happen. Again, that goes back to the accountability thing where it's like, oh yeah, he just ran out and cheated on me for no reason. I understand that does happen in a very small case of scenarios, but a lot of times there was something broken in the marriage for that to go and happen.
Feminism has really changed our minds to view serving as slavery. Serving your husband, looking after your family, raising up children, that is slavery. There was a new Snow White movie that came out. The old Snow White, she's like mopping the floors and she's like cleaning the kitchen for the dwarves and she's like all happy. Look at the new Snow White. She's like, bam, chucking the towel on the floor. She's so angry because society's trying to convince us that serving is slavery. Don't you know that Jesus did not come to be served, but he came to I often get women say to me, does my husband really expect me to like pick up his undies off the floor and cook for him and clean for him? Like, what am I, a servant? I'm like, let me check. Yeah, kind of. That's kind of the call of every single Christian ever. We are called to serve. You know, when Paul opened up his letters, he didn't introduce himself as Paul the apostle, the writer of majority of the New Testament. He opened up with the words, Paul, a servant of God. Serving is the highest form and capacity in the kingdom of God. Who told you that serving somehow means inferiority? We need to do less complaining and replace complaining with gratitude. It is an honor to serve.
Ladies, hear me in this. You've been lied to. You have been brainwashed. Feminism is evil, and if you just spend your days hating God, hating men, being lonely, ranting, raving, and not marrying and birthing, you will be just a miserable, lonely old Democrat in a pantsuit.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. So from these clips, I think we already know where this video is heading. Now, I've heard a lot of people argue that you can be a feminist and be religious. But in my books, that doesn't work. It does not work. I don't see the picture. Like, I do not understand it because the two concepts are entirely opposites of each other. As one opposes the other verbatim, like there's no in-between between both. You can see from the clips, those were religious teachers teaching about how feminism has made women not know their place in society, literally beseeching their members to not be feminist or embrace feminism as a whole. We all know that the principles of Christianity were founded on patriarchal doctrines, patriarchal teachings. As the Christian God is a male, it panders to the males and subjugates the women, teaches the women that they are supposed to submit to the men, teaches that the man is the head of the home, teaches that the woman is supposed to submit to her husband. I've heard teachings where they've told the women that in the eyes of God, we are all, the man and the woman are the same. But in marriage, the man and the woman are not equal. That God ordained this, that a man is superior to the woman. So on this video, I don't want to talk too much. I want us to be the judge. While watching these clips, I want us to see and answer in the comment section if you believe that a person can actually be a feminist and also be religious. I would love to hear what you all think down below in the comment section. But let's watch some clips and I'll come back with what I think.
Women are the kind of people that people come out of.
So you just think they're meant to have babies? That's it. They're just a vessel.
No, it doesn't take any talent to simply reproduce biologically. The wife and mother, who is the chief executive of the home, is entrusted with 3 or 4 or 5 eternal souls.
I'm here as a working journalist and I'm a mom of 3.
Good for you.
Is that an issue for you?
No, it's not automatically an issue.
Christchurch senior pastor Doug Wilson is the leader of a Christian nationalist movement that believes in a patriarchal society where men are dominant and women are expected to submit to their husbands. Josh and Amy Prince, along with their 4 kids, moved from Washington State to Moscow, Idaho, where Wilson's movement is based.
Do you see Amy as your equal?
Yes and no, in the sense that we're both saved by grace. We're absolutely on equal footing, but we have very different purposes, God-given.
But do you see yourself as the head of the household, as the man?
He is the head of our household. Yes, and I do submit to him.
So like moving here
I was just going to say that.
ultimately your decision.
Yes.
That's a great
example.
Wilson says in his vision of a Christian society, women as individuals shouldn't be able to vote. His fellow pastors, Jared Longshore and Toby Sumter, agree.
In my ideal society, we would vote as households. And I would ordinarily be the one that would cast the vote, but I would cast the vote having discussed it with my household.
But what if there's your wife doesn't want to vote for the same person as you?
Right. Well, then that's a great opportunity for a good discussion.
Feminism has done a lot of damage to women. Once happy homes have been destroyed because some disgruntled women feel that now they should be in control of men and that wives should start to control their husbands and be in charge. Equality. And some ministers, see, I've been seeing some videos flying around. I will help you because this is an adulterous and sinful generation, perverse generation, full of unbelief. You cannot receive the principles of God's word as he says it. You think you have to modify it. Or that God, when God gave those words, he did not factor in some of your problems now. That the word of God is a cake. How? You know, with all the talk of gender roles, they are the principles. Then there is love and understanding. That where certain things may not be able to be done per time, then adjustments are made out of love and understanding. But when you now make those things the rule, must the wife be the one to do the cooking? Can the husband not do the cooking? Then some men who want to belong, they don't realize they have come under the influence of the generation. Say, well, I cook. That's fine. But is that your job? Stay with scriptures. If the husband enjoys cooking and decides he wants to cook, that's fine. The wife is not around. She's busy, she has to be out. Take care of the children. Of course. But madam, you did there, your husband did there. Then two of you will not be, I cooked yesterday, you cooked today. And madam, be very careful. And if you think I will stand on this stage and start talking that rubbish, I'm not your new generation pastor. And there's no new generation word. There's a culture from the scriptures, and those cultures must be honored. Your wife cleaning the house is reducing your wife. So it's like, how? How is that? Okay, so when you now clean the house, what does that do to you? That's basic responsibility. Before she got married, she was not cleaning house. How about now? The husband can assist, of course. He can take it up. But for the wife to now say, who is now providing leadership now? And listen, anything that makes you as a wife, anything that occasions a reduction of your husband in your estimation, anything that removes or diminishes the place of service as an act of honor to your husband, don't touch it with a long spoon. Don't. So young girls here, you're not yet married. Are you allowing all that nonsense get into your head? And that's how you are preparing to enter into marriage. Hear word. Because that's how many people planning for failure in marriage. Failure. You can't run marriage on new rules.
First of all, listening to that was hard because I can't help but feel bad for the kind of women that listen to this kind of doctrines on a daily basis by these so-called men of God. And they believe these things and they practice these things, and if they don't do it, they consider themselves sinners for not honoring your husband by serving him. As he mentioned, he said, you do it as an act of honor. That is what you're instructed to do, to serve, to clean as an act of honor unto your husband as commanded by God. Here's like the major problem about this patriarchy that I don't like. It's the women that suffer the most from these patriarchal teachings. Obviously, it was made to subjugate women and make women subservient and inferior to men, but it's so sad because it's women that are always in the receiving end of these teachings, of these doctrines. There's no equality, obviously. The man is always going to be right. You're always going to be wrong. No matter what, you're going to be at the receiving end as the woman. Yeah, because they teach them that your husband is the God you see on earth. I've heard that so many times. So you should honor him like you would honor God. He is the mouthpiece of God. He comes first. You're insignificant in the grand scheme of things. And this is why they would often support the man, no matter what he does, no matter the sin that he commits. The men are never held accountable. Rather, the woman is told that she's not being a good wife. She's not doing her duties as a wife the way she should. Like we heard from the first clip I played, you heard what the lady said. It's that if her husband cheats, it's her fault. Exactly. That's how much That's how delusional they make these women feel. Imagine a woman thinking that it is her fault that her husband cheats on her. Why? Because that's what she's been taught. The last part where he said that a woman is complaining about cooking and cleaning in her house. So who was cleaning and cooking for her before she got into the husband's house? Exactly. Why not ask the man the same question? Who was cooking and cleaning for him before he became a husband, before he got a wife? Why is it just the woman that has to answer that question? I mean, was he handicapped before he got a wife? Was he not doing stuff for himself before he got a wife? No equality. So to me, I don't see how people that teach these kinds of things would still be the same people that would come and say, yeah, they believe in feminism, but they don't believe in the radical feminism. That's the one they are against. That is a joke right there. You cannot tell me that it's this same man teaching about submission and a woman relegating all her freedom to her husband that would be standing for feminism, that would be encouraging feminism, which means the equality of both genders. It just does not make sense. They can't, because the foundation of what you teach opposes feminism. It's patriarchal. Your teachings, your Christian doctrines are patriarchal teachings. A woman does not have a right or a say in the Bible. So let's call a spade a spade. Personally, I do not think that a woman can say she is a feminist and understands the rules of feminism and equally be a good Christian, unless you're a bad Christian.
Feminism movement is starting to displace God's natural order. This was said to me by a man that I deeply respect. He also said that a man can marry 2 wives, but a woman cannot. Need I say that this was a religious setting? So this is not a typical bad person, by the way. He's a great husband. He's always coming to these settings, holding his baby whilst his wife is busy chilling. So what I want to say with this is that all men are misogynistic. The only difference is the level or the degree of misogyny. You only need to listen to a man long enough for you to find out that he is misogynistic. First time I'm going to say this, it's generally no fault of theirs. Well, it's their fault that they choose to stay that way. The fact that they are misogynistic to start with is no fault of theirs. It's just the way they are socialized. Just the same way women are socialized to cater to men, and why we have the decentering men movement, which is to dismantle that ideology that women are already socialized with.
I don't think there is any way you can be a staunch feminist and you do not deconstruct religion. I think it's impossible. Because when you become feminist and you start aligning yourself with a lot of feminist ideas, you would start deconstructing religion. And you might not leave religion, but you would know, or you would acknowledge or recognize that there is something fundamentally wrong with religion. You will know, realize, and also acknowledge that the Bible is patriarchal and a lot of misogyny exists in the Bible. There is no escape, no matter how religious you are. Once you become staunch feminist, naturally, it will just come to you. When you start reading most of those stories, you read those stories from a feminist perspective, and you see a lot of mistreatment of women in the Bible. You start seeing how misogynistic and patriarchal those men that you hold in high esteem in the Bible are. You start reading the story from your own perspective and not the perspective of a pastor who is probably a man that taught you in church. There's a reconstruction of your brain, like you cannot help it. Even if you end up not living religion, you still subscribe to religion, at least you would know and you would acknowledge and you will recognize that there is something fundamentally wrong with how religion treats women. And then you will see that you will start deconstructing pastors. You see those respect you have, you know, go get respect for those pastors again. You will now recognize that they are just men, just like every other man. That is what being called feminist does to you. It reconstructs your brain as a woman. It gives you clarity.
Why would women be excited to have 72 virgins in heaven? Why? Women should never be religious. One of the reasons why our world is as fucked up as it is because men convinced women that they needed to be religious, when in fact, religion was really created by men for men. Remember, ladies, they don't care about us. They're never thinking about us. That's why we have so little research into women's health in 2026, because they do not care about us. They do not think about us. When men say human, they're talking about other men. They have conflated humanity with men, because they decided that men are just the default human being. So when they're sitting here talking about human nature, they're really describing male nature, because they're not thinking about us. And so they get to hide male nature behind this concept of humans are just evil. Humans are just power hungry. No, they're not. Men are. And you can even tell that religion is not for women. Just look at the things that they prescribe in religion. They teach you to be more humble, more selfless, more giving. Women already are that way. Who out there needs that instruction? Women or men? Religion teaches you to go within, to seek the answers within. You mean like intuition? What women already do? Between women and men, who needs to turn within? Who needs to look inside? Why would women be excited to have 72 virgins in heaven? Why? Religion is a tool of the state to control men. And somehow women got sucked up into it. And now look at the world. And if we want to get even deeper with it, religion is a tool that was created for men, by men, not just to control them, but so they could be closer to women. Because all of the aspirations of religion is literally just your average everyday woman going about her life. Because women are already connected to the source. We don't need external tools to help us get connected. Men do.
You see, a lot of men love religion because religion affords them the privilege of being, bad people and doing anything they want with no accountability. Because at the end of the day, nobody faults them. They are the men, of course. So they use religion as a leverage to be terrible men, terrible husbands, terrible parents, mainly terrible husbands. Because of course, his woman, his wife is going to, at the end of the day, forgive him, and he would blame anything, any misconduct on the devil. That's why bad people love religion very much. And like what she pointed out, most of the rewards and that are promised in religion cater to the men, of course, because what would a woman be doing? Needing virgins in the afterlife. It's the men. It's a man's egotistic desire being pandered to. That's what men want. More women, more luxury, more service, and more enjoyment, more smacks. So it's a religion that panders to the needs of men, that panders to men, that affords men the privilege of doing whatever they want with very little accountability and a way out of whatever mess that they put themselves into. Like, men are the ones that enjoy these religions. Imagine if the religion that teaches that you are the head of your wife, no matter what you do, she has to forgive you. No matter what you do, she has to forgive you. You own her body, she's supposed to submit to you for no other reason aside from you being a man. Imagine a religion who would not want, which man would not want to take this offer? That's why they oftentimes look for naive Christian girls. They say they want a God-fearing woman that loves family, that is a God that loves God. Yeah, I've heard men talk about that. Even men that barely know what religion preaches, but all they know is that this woman is going to submit to them. Because she's been taught and indoctrinated by these religious teachings. That's why most of men that don't even believe in religion would often seek out Christian women, born-again women that love God, that love the Bible. Because that's the kind of woman that they can abuse. That's the kind of woman that they would never do evil in her eyes. Any evil they do, she accords it to the devil. Any bad thing they do is blamed on the devil. They are never going to be held accountable for their behaviors, for their bad behaviors. So I would say this is why men love religion, and they use it as leverage to be whatever they want to do and do whatever they want to do with zero to no accountability. And this is why in religion, they would teach women to cover up so you don't make the man sin. A woman is taught to cover up more so you don't tempt the man to sin against God by gripping you or by lusting over you. So it's not the man's fault that he cannot be in control of his body, of his fleshly desires. It's the woman's fault that the man even thought of any lustful desire.
The way that modesty was taught to me was basically, if I don't dress modestly, I will be a temptation to every male around me, including my brother, who could be tempted to assault me. These are the real teachings that were happening in churches to young girls. Modesty for men, what is that? What does that mean? Toplessness at the beach, that's absolutely fine. Showing gold chains, that's absolutely fine. Wearing a button-down shirt all the way down to your navel as a man, absolutely fine. But when it comes to girls, especially those who have fuller bodies, all of a sudden, modesty is being enforced, especially in the church. And studies back this up, that girls with fuller bodies are being policed way more. What does this teach girls? It teaches them that their bodies are inherently sexual, that them just existing in their bodies is a temptation, which is, to me, modesty messages, a lot of the time, it just justifies abuse. Argue with your pastor. At the same time, we're taught that beauty is fleeting and that a woman needs to not focus on her appearance. And yet, her appearance is the thing that is most policed in the church. Why is a girl's faith all summed up in the way that she dresses? Modesty messages cause so much trauma. Also very triggering for those of us who have been through abuse. The main culprit in all of this is the thought system that men are visual beings, and so therefore women are walking temptations for Christian men. The scientific opinion that men are visual beings was led by a woman called Luann Brizendine, and even she, at the time when writing this, was laughed out of the place by most of the scientific society, because even they could see that her evidence was nonsense. And even she herself, now she's even backtracked. Studies show that women are actually more different from each other than they are altogether as a gender, different from men. People love to use the passage of Romans 14 verse 13 as a justification. Oh, like, women shouldn't be a stumbling block. But that verse is not just about women. It's gender inclusive. It's about all of us. Also, a man can cause another man to sin. A man can cause another woman to sin. And why is it always about sexual sin? There's so many different types of sins. There's a great book written by Sheila Ray Gregore. It does a survey of thousands of Christian women, especially in the evangelical church. And it showed that women who believe a lot of these modesty teachings were more likely to end up in abusive relationship, more likely to end up in verbally abusive relationships. And the Bible itself says, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge out. It is your responsibility. A man's salvation is his responsibility. The armor of faith is yours. Your helmet of salvation should be on your head. Me, I cannot carry your helmet for you.
The reason why a lot of people are against feminists is because of something known as autonomy. Let me explain something. The patriarchy is a system that men created to make men stoic providers and women the provided, aka stay-at-home wives. The problem with this is that women's autonomy was stripped off them, and this is how it was stripped off. There's something known as marriage. Yes, marriage happens, they pay your bride price, and your identity is stripped off you. You take your husband's surname. Now, when you take your husband's surname, it only makes sense that the children you will also bear will take his what? His surname, making everything patrilineal. The problem with this now is that women lose their autonomy. And when women lose their autonomy, they are seen as beneath a man in everything. Because why? From the tiniest function of society, which is family, women are already seen as beneath a man. Feminism destroys that. It makes people partners and not make men sovereign in a marriage. Okay, the problem is that this stoic provider rule is easy for some men who are in the red pill or top society. It's easy to be the provider, but you never talk about the bottom men. That's the below. Those provider roles for them is strenuous on them, and the patriarchy doesn't care, because that's how the patriarchy works. It's like a pyramid. Okay, the children are at the bottom of the pyramid, the influential men are at the top, and men are somewhere in the middle suffering. But the patriarchy doesn't care. Do you understand? That's exactly what feminism is against. But men are against feminism because why? They know that once women take their autonomy, a lot of things will be questioned. Like, why are men the leaders of the home? Why should men be the ones to give the children the surname? And now, since men don't have a clear answer for it, guess where they run to? The Bible, the religious texts. Exactly, to justify what their provider role should be, rather than actually facing the main truth, because they know that they have no valid reason for it. Feminism now gives women the provider role and the men the provider role, which in a way reduces the stress on men. But no, ego and pride will not let them see that part. They want to be the one to control. They want to be the one on top. Why? When a woman has her autonomy, it will begin to challenge a lot of things. Okay, and now you begin to see women as autonomous, but you don't want to. You don't value what she says because why? Growing up, you saw that a woman was respecting or giving reverence to a man in the house rather than him actually listening to his wife. It's societally conditions children to believe that women do not have any say where men are. Feminism needs to go far and destroy patriarchy.
And that's the summary. Christianity is patriarchal, and that is why feminism can never be embraced by the Christian society. Feminism opposes every single thing that the Christian faith stands for, and that's why it can never work. That's why you cannot be a feminist and actually be a good Christian. The Christian religion does not afford the women the same rights as the men. The Christian religion does not treat the women as the same as the men. Trust me, I've been a Christian for a very long time, so I know firsthand what I'm talking about. I've experienced this. I've lived through this, so I know what I'm talking about. As a Christian woman, it is a taboo, as a matter of fact, for you to even be by yourself. Nah, it's a sin. It's a sin for you to be by yourself. You're not supposed to have autonomy by yourself, because according to them, a woman was made from the ribs of a man, as how Eve was made from the ribs of Adam. So how would someone that was made from the ribs of a man have autonomy, be single? It's a taboo, and that's why it's a sin for you to be single in that faith. The patriarchy robs women of everything, of our identity, of our autonomy and everything. Like, that's what feminism has been fighting, the patriarchy, and how it rips women of our autonomy. And Christianity follows the patriarchy. Hence, the religion favors men. Hence, it caters to men. And that's why men are the biggest upholders of the religion, because it caters to them. So it will never make sense to me when people say that you can be a religious person and equally be a feminist. It just shows that you don't entirely know what you're talking about. You've actually not studied your religion for yourself, not what people are telling. Even if you listen to what they teach you, you're going to see it. You're going to see what it is for what it is. You're going to hear, if you listen closely to what they teach in your religious gatherings, you're going to see that these teachings are not were not made with your best interest as a woman in mind. Unless you don't study, unless you don't listen. But if you listen, take out sentiments and fear, of course, because that's their number one tool. They make their members to be scared of even thinking of anything outside of those teachings. If you take away fear, because that's their biggest tool, do your own studies by yourself with an understanding of feminism, you're going to see the loopholes in these religions. So we need to call a spade a spade. These religions are not meant for women. These religions ruin women. These religions are the most powerful tool of the patriarchy. It is.
I recently debated 20 Christians as the singular atheist in the room, and they were all women for context. And one of my prompts was that Christianity is inherently patriarchal and therefore harmful to women. So there's two ways that you can kind of argue that as like my opponent in this debate as one of the Christians. Either that Christianity is not inherently patriarchal, or that patriarchy is not harmful to women. To argue that patriarchy is not harmful to women is to say the same things that a woman says when she's in a domestically abusive relationship. And I don't say that with judgment or shame. I've been there. A lot of us have been there. And I remember that there were women outside in my community who were saying like, hey, I think this guy is like abusive and like treating you like dog shit. And I was out here saying all of the things like, oh, but he's nice to me. Like, oh, well, you don't understand like the time and place in which he was raised. You just don't get it. Like, all of the same things were said. You can go see this debate yourself. Like, they're saying like, well, Jesus was standing up to tyranny and he was like really nice to women. Babe, that first of all, if you want to make the claim that the entirety of your religion is about a relationship with this guy and not like, you know, the entire power structure or the culture or the institution that has resulted in 100% keeping women complacent, compliant, and controlled, like, that's one thing. But if no one's told you, by the way, that just because a guy is nice to you does not mean he respects you as an equal, let me be the first to tell you that. Trust me, I had to learn it the hard way, and I'm not trying to be a bitch, but we gotta get there. And then the other component of the prompt was that Christianity is inherently patriarchal. And in the same breath that these Christian women were saying that God made us all in his image, including us women. We were all made in his image. That was probably the most difficult prompt, like emotionally for me, to just sit there and be like, made in his image? Okay. Not patriarchal though? Okay. Got it.
This religion is not safe for women. As a woman who grew up in the church, I can confidently tell you that Christianity held a higher standard for women than it ever did for men. And I remember sitting through Sunday school reading parts of Genesis and seeing biblical grounds for this resentment towards women. I remember guys making jokes about how women were to blame and like blame Eve for the reason you have period cramps because it's all Eve's fault. And we're taught to just hate Eve. We're conditioned to believe that a woman brought sin into the world, and therefore women now have to suffer. And looking back now, I see that even beyond Genesis, we see so much misogyny within the Bible. Just in how it's written, you guys. When a man is brought up in the Bible, usually his relationship with God is highlighted, his strength, some sort of like positive characteristic about him, independent of a woman. But when a woman is brought up, it's always tied to a man, or it's tied to whether or not she was a prostitute or a virgin. And I find it to be so striking that supposedly this God, who is supposed to transcend all time, would create this book cementing the idea that women are the lesser vessel. Is that not fucked up? And I remember, of all the Bible stories, the men got David and Goliath. They got Daniel in the lion's den. They got Noah in the ark. I was hunting as a child for a woman to look up to in the Bible. And I remember I would look up to Esther. But as I got older, I began to realize that the story of Esther is pretty fucked up. Esther was kidnapped from her home, brought to the palace where she underwent beauty treatments for a year, and then was given to the king for a night. A young girl, kidnapped from her family, undergoes beauty treatments for a year, and then has a night with the king. Do you think that that night with the king was her just reading some of his books? Playing chess? No. These are fucked up stories.
When I was 12 years old, an adult man in my homeschooling group told me that I should wear a skirt instead of pants to look more ladylike. When I was 13, I sat in the keynote speech given at a homeschooling convention in which the speaker said that women should not exercise their right to vote, but should instead submit their vote to their husbands, and everyone around me stood up and cheered. When I was 14 years old, I was introduced to the stay-at-home daughter movement thanks to the Botkin sisters' book, So Much More, which preached that girls should give up colleges and careers and any thought of living outside of their family's home and instead stay in their home to serve their families, serve their fathers, and wait for their God-ordained, father-approved husbands. When I was 15, a woman in my church told me that I should be careful about hugging any boys because I was giving them too much access to my body. When I was 16, back at another homeschooling convention, a speaker told the audience that I was in that girls should be focused on heaven, not Harvard. When my mother asked him afterwards if it was okay for any girls to go to college because she really thought that I should go to college, he said that I might be an exception, but that I certainly wasn't the rule. Throughout the rest of my teen years, I plunged further and further into the world of Christian patriarchy as perpetuated by Vision Forum, and I found myself continually confronted with these two alternative paths. On the one hand, I thought that if I really wanted to be a good Christian and I wanted God to truly love me, then I had to become a submissive wife and mother. I had to stay home. I had to homeschool my children. I had to let my father pick out my husband. And on the other path, which seemed honestly too good to even be true, to possibly exist, there was this life that awaited me where I could make choices and I could be free. When I did start college at 18, because I had a normal family who wanted me to go to college, I remember sitting in my freshman orientation looking around at all the other boys in my major thinking I had better marry someone who's in this room, because even if I don't get to do what I want to do, even if my life gets curtailed and cut short, at least I can be around someone who's doing what I want to do. And I tell you all of this because I wasn't even raised around the most extreme versions of Christian patriarchy, the kind that's currently infecting our national politics. And I know what an indelible mark it can make on the life of a young person who grows up in it. I spent so much of my 20s being so scared of being a wife and being a mother because I was afraid that those were the only ways that God was going to love me, and yet I was so scared that they would trap me.
You are not allowed to be a human in religion. Even though you are on earth, on this tangible human material world, having a tangible human experience, you are not allowed to acknowledge that. You are not allowed to feel your humanity and to live within your humanity, because everything that makes you human is wrong or is sinful or you have to go against that. As someone who was very religious from a young age, that is quite anxiety inducing, because normal moments, normal human moments and actions for me was so anxiety inducing, because in my head everything that I do as a human being is sinful. If I had a crush on a boy, that was so sinful, and I thought I deserved so many bad things to happen to me because I simply had a crush on a boy. But religion also makes you susceptible to, yes, abuse. Your tolerance for pain and discomfort is so high because when you are in religion, we see a lot of people stay in abusive religious structures, not because it's nice, but because in their head, this is what they deserve. This is what they deserve. They do not deserve any comfort. They do not deserve any ease. They do not deserve any happiness. Right? And that's what it does.
I think we've heard it all, but my personal advice as a woman who used to be in this kind of religion, who has been deceived, who has gone through religious abuse, who was robbed of most of my childhood because I was following religion, who missed out on a lot of things in life because of religion, who was isolated a lot. Self-isolation, by the way, because I was taught not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers. You had to have Christian friends, the same folks from your church. It was seen as a sin to be friends with other people, so-called sinners. It was a sin to socialize and be a normal kid and just have fun. I was in a religion that just merely watching TV was seen as a sin. As a matter of fact, when we grew up at some point, my mom had to rebel and get a TV in our home. And we were ostracized by our religious brethren because we had a TV in our home. And I think that was one of the good things. I think that was one of the bravest things my mom did then, even though she knew that she was going to be scrutinized. She somehow just could not stand that her kids wanted to watch TV, and we would often go to our neighbors' homes to go watch TV and all of that. But I'm trying to give you all just an idea of where I'm coming from. I've been in this religious, I come from a religion where it was also a sin to pierce your child's ear, like just normal piercing on the ear. It was seen as a sin. I did my piercings myself. And I'm not saying a child's ears must be pierced, but doing it because your religion taught you that it was a sin, that's where there's a problem. Because that was the reason why my earlobes were not pierced. So religion has robbed me of a lot of things. So coming from me, a person that has been abused by religion so many times, that has missed out on a lot of things because of religion, you as a woman, try and deconstruct religion. Try as much as possible not to be caught up in these religions because they don't mean good for you. It's going to rob you of a lot. It's going to rob you of a lot of things, trust me. You're going to be abused. You're going to be at the receiving end all the time. They are going to control you. They are going to abuse you. That's when you will not even realize that they are being wicked to you and being evil to you until maybe your later days, when you're old and when it's too late. Maybe that's when you may start to realize that you've been robbed of a lot of things in your life. You've missed out on a lot of opportunities because you were trying to please your God, your religious maker. You are going to be a very male-centered woman because your parent, your mom, she's going to be teaching you how to be a good wife, how to serve your husband. Everything about your upbringing is going to be centered around a man, how to pander to your husband. That's all they see you as. A homemaker, a wife, a woman, a person made for a man. You're never going to have autonomy. You're never going to be taught to be independent, to be a woman of your own, to chase your own dreams, to be a woman of your own. No matter what they do, it's still going to circle around being a good wife to your husband. You're going to be rewarded by how much you can endure, how much pain you can endure. You're going to be abused so many times, a lot of times in this religion. So from girl to girl, woman to woman, if you see yourself in this kind of religion, run for your life. Run for your life. especially young women, especially young ladies. Your first line of action should not be to argue with people that teach you to deconstruct religion, that teach you that these religions are hurting you more than you're gaining from it. Your first line of action is to introspect. Think about it this way. Religion is a system that rules out the place of asking questions. You're not permitted to ask some questions. A perfect system is not one that cannot be questioned. A perfect system is a system that is open to scrutiny, that is open to judgment, that can stand the test of time, that can defend itself, and that people can ask questions and, answers will be given. A perfect system would not require that you follow blindly. Any religion that teaches you to just follow blindly and you cannot ask why, that's an oppressive system. And on that note, we've come to the end of this video. Don't forget to leave your thoughts and what you all think down below in the comment section. And of course, don't forget to like this video if you found it educating. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if this is the kind of content that you resonate with. And thank you all for watching. I remain your girl Joy. I will see you in my next video. Have a blessed day. Bye.